Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology and intelligence and um, just basically talking about elements in a natal chart which could give a certain intelligence in terms of propensity to have an above average IQ, be highly intelligent, be able to assimilate information very well, and just general cerebral intellectual ability. Now, the first thing I look at, I think that very smart zodiac signs, if we're going to go by signs, I would say would be the air signs for one, Gemini. I mean, you're talking about Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Somebody that has a dominant Gemini chart or sun, moon, or ascendant in Gemini can have very strong gift of gab, be able to assimilate a lot of information and talk about it just as easily. Aquarius is very innovative. They're very ingenious, often have very good concepts. They could be very progressive, very far ahead of their time. And Libra is about intellectual sociability and being able to bounce ideas off of others, but they're very idea oriented. They could formulate very good ideas and have certain intellectual ability as well, since they are about intellectual sociability. Virgo is very analytical. I mean, they're ruled by Mercury. They could have very strong cerebral ability. They're more about analysis as opposed to Gemini is more about quick assimilation of ideas and communication of them, while Virgo can be about a lot of really just a lot of analysis and really seeing a lot of details, remembering the details of things. And the thing about this too is also, I mean, Mercury is about our intellectual or intellect, the communication, um, the assimilation of ideas. And say, I mean, Mercury, if you have Mercury in its dignity in Gemini or Virgo, you can mean those are very good placements for Mercury, of course, because being in its dignity, Mercury in Gemini can be very voluble, very loquacious, talk about many different things. They can have manifold mental interests and ability to virtually understand. I mean, ability to understand virtually any subject. While Mercury in Virgo can be very, of course, very analytical in their thought process, very systematic and methodical in their thinking, and they could dissect a lot of many different things and remember a lot of those fine details to different subjects, and they're very orderly now in their organized in their thinking process. They are, you look at, I mean, it's Mercury is very important in terms of the intellectual ability, but it's not like say, I mean, Sagittarius, even though Mercury is in its detriment in Sagittarius, I don't think we know too many dumb Sagittarius people. Sagittarius about the higher mind, higher education. I mean, Bill Nye the Science Guy, many of you may know, he has the sun in Sagittarius, renowned, the renowned genius, I call him, Albert Einstein, has his moon in Sagittarius. Now, and you look at, this is what I mean, Mercury well aspected could really give, I believe, a propensity for very strong intellectual ability, a strong third house. Somebody with the ruler of the third house in the first house, or the ruler of the first house in the third house can, the ruler of the third house in the first house, for example, can show communicative ability on a first impression and could have very, certain intellectual ability, I would think, on a first impression as well. Somebody with the ruler of the first house posited in the third house in their natal chart can be somebody that injects a lot of their personality into their communications, into thinking, into assimilating information. Now, the thing about it too is, I mean, if somebody, like, say, if you don't have any major astrological influences in air signs or Virgo, or even Sagittarius, it's certainly not the end of the world, because you can have Mercury well aspected, you can have certain progressions that can help out as well. You can have progressed planets in major astrological energy go into air signs, or even Virgo, um, Sagittarius. You could have, for example, even if your Mercury, let's say, is not well placed and you have it in its fallen detriment, which of course is Pisces, but if you have it in the third house, that could modify the influence to some degree and could be a person that even though the emotions might strongly cloud the logical thinking, a person might still be able to communicate about many different ideas, and might have a facility for words and understanding many different things, even though the thought process may be thinking might be a little bit more chaotic, given that it's in Mercury would be in Pisces in that example. So anyway, yeah, another thing too is, I mean, Mercury in the 11th house, even if it's not well placed by sign, could give innovative thinking. It could be a person that likes to communicate about new concepts and ideas and those kind of things. I mean, of course, you would blending the zodiac sign, and say if it was in the zodiac sign Taurus, it could be somebody that might learn methodically through things that are demonstrated visually, but it could be a person that could have very innovative thoughts in Taurus related things, such as things of a monetary nature, or maybe something with agriculture or architecture. It could be somebody that may express new ideas and concepts as far as that goes. Say if it's in Virgo, it could be somebody that expresses certain innovative thinking in health related matters, in terms of maybe, for example, innovative health equipment. But anyway, there's also I'll talk about a couple astrological charts I thought were very interesting. We're talking about two geniuses. The first one I want to talk about, Albert Einstein, which I consider a renowned genius. He has in his natal chart, he only has one major astrological influence in air. In that, when I'm talking about the major astrological influences, of course, I'm referring to for me, the 10 planets, the ascendant, and midheaven. The one singleton, Jupiter, is in Aquarius, and when Jupiter, you're talking about Jupiter in astrology, can be very fortuitous and beneficial, but it could be paradoxical as well. It could also enlarge things, but this could be enlargement of something good, enlarging perhaps genius ability. And having it in, I believe, the 9th house, which is in its accidental dignity anyway, it's really, it's no surprise that this could have, very well played a role. Was certainly an astrological proponent for Einstein to attain, doing things on a very high genius level. And also, looking at his chart, I saw what I consider a yod. It's somewhat controversial because some people might not consider the node an energy in a yod, but in his yod, what I consider a yod configuration in Albert Einstein's chart, it consists of a Mercury, Saturn, and Aries conjunction in the 8th house, and the North Node in Aquarius in the 8th house. This again, the Saturn and Mercury in Aries conjunction in the 10th house, sextiling the North Node in Aquarius in the 8th house, and then that energy both in conjuncts Uranus in Virgo in the 3rd house for Albert Einstein. So when you look at that energy, the yod, when you look at the yod configuration, the apex point, which in this case is that action, but is Uranus in Virgo in the 3rd house. This shows where that monumental achievement for Albert Einstein can be through expressing very innovative thoughts with meticulous attention to detail and ideas that might come very extemporaneously, very spontaneously. That energy that goes into this, that energy that you look at the Mercury in Aries conjunct Saturn and Aries in the 10th house. I think this is very strongly tied in to that mathematical equation. He had that E, whatever equals mc squared, because Mercury and Aries can give very pioneering original thinking. You have a conjunct Saturn. Saturn can be connected with mathematics. And in the 10th house, he gained notoriety and acclaim for that. And then you have the North Node in Aquarius in the 8th house. Transformation, the future, the North Node being in Aquarius, being non-conforming, being very innovative. That was really tied in to his future, and those are and really. For me, this is very, I mean, looking at Albert Einstein's chart, it's not surprising that he did made a lot of these contributions to science with his his theories that might have seemed non-conforming to some people, but were actually very valid, and he was very ahead of his time. There was no doubt about that, because he had very strong Uranus. And that Aquarius energy obviously played a very prominent role in that. And there was another person too, you might have heard of her as Marilyn Vos Savant, and she was regarded, I believe still regarded, as one of the smartest people based on her IQ score. And I don't know her ascendant or time of birth, but I know that she has the sun in Leo and the moon is in Aquarius, and if I remember correctly, she didn't have any planets in feminine signs, so there's no planets in water. And you look at that tells me there's a lot of very rational energy, and she don't let anything really that subjective to interfere with what she's trying to figure out on an intellectual level. She has known for, believe, like some very complex problems and logic problems that people would solve. But what I want to get to is that she also, oddly enough, she has Mercury retrograde. So another thing is, it could be a misconception by some people that Mercury retrograde can really be, oh no, I'm doomed, I'm going to be we're too methodical in my thought process, I'm going to be slow thinker. Well, that's not always the case, as Marilyn Vos Savant certainly has proven. And she, the sun in Leo can give that energy, that basic want to command some kind of attention and gain some notoriety for something. The moon in Aquarius, it's no surprise she gained that notoriety and acclaim and recognition for being this genius, for doing things on a very genius level. I mean, Aquarius is the sign connected with that. Aquarius, of course, is associated with really with genius. Aquarius could also be, of course, very ingenious and innovative. And you look at this energy, and I mean, it's really not much of a surprise when you see a chart like Marilyn Vos Savant's. And she in any way, I don't really have too much more to say as far as this subject on astrology and intelligence. The only other thing I want to get, I may not have touched on earlier in the video, is like, say if you have, I did talk about Mercury being in the 3rd house. You could have Mercury not well placed by sign, but you could still have it in like an accidental dignity. The 3rd house is one, and then the 6th house would be another example. So anyway, and also too, I wanted to say that a person that might, you're talking about, I mean, Mercury, and also the 3rd house as well, again, is very important to look at as far as intelligence may go. And the thing about it, and going back to Albert Einstein's natal chart, it just shows you don't have to have an overabundance of air signs to have very strong intellectual ability. Again, only the major astrological influence he had in air was Jupiter in Aquarius. Now he also did have the North Node in Aquarius, and that can be very prominent as well. And it was in that what I consider a yod. I mean, for him, I see it in a yod configuration. Again, what I'm saying to be somewhat controversial. Some people may not see the North Node as being used in a yod configuration, but I believe it can be used in it. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.